The BlokeBusters podcast is proud to be a member of the Pod Bros Network. You can find us, as well as other fantastic podcasts, such as Pencil and Ink Review, Another Damn Trivia Show, and Language of Bromance at podbros.com, as well as on most other fine podcasting services. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to share and enjoy the BlokeBusters podcast.
Welcome to episode 88 of the BlokeBusters podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Brian.
And today we will be talking about 2016's Arrival, a film that a lot of people seem to think was gypped a little bit at the Oscars, but we will definitely be getting into that in a moment. First and foremost, as always, do get a hold of us on Twitter at BlokeBusters, or on Facebook.com/BlokeBusters, or on Instagram at BlokeBusters, or you can email us blokebusterpodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, blokebusters.webs.com. You can't get a hold of us there, but it is a nice little website. Here we go. And I don't believe we have anything else at the moment, but I will update the list if we ever do.
I think we're good. All right, so we are fashionably late as always on things, but this is never a bad time to talk about this movie. At least I don't think, not to get too far ahead of ourselves. I want to say one thing quickly out of the way. If this is your first time with us, these are all spoiler eps. We don't mark them as such. But if for some reason you have not gotten around to Arrival, do that, then listen. So with that out of the way,
that being the reason we're actually talking about this, I rented Arrival through Redbox last weekend, as of this recording, which is the 16th of June, and I then sent a message to Brian saying, hey, want to do Arrival? And that's why we're doing it right now. So,
alright, yep. So I was like, sure,
yes.
Alright. So I brushed up and I watched it this afternoon, so for the second time. Yep. Because I did not trust my memory from about 6 or 7 months ago, so
understandable.
I think I saw it about a week or two before the Oscars. So
most people
in my Oscar binge.
Most people don't have my memory for films, so I can understand why you want to watch it.
So that being said, I still could have forgotten a few things in the last 4 or 5 hours, but we'll see. All right, so how do we want to proceed forward here?
Well, may as well do the nuts and bolts real quick. This film was directed by Denis Villeneuve, and I'm fairly certain I pronounced that correctly. And
I believe you have.
It made... Well, no, never mind. It had a budget of $47 million. I'll comment on that in a bit. And the box office worldwide, $202,317,238 US. So, it did quite well.
And I think, especially given that, I don't know if this is completely accurate, but given that it's kind of a thinking person's Independence Day, I think that's pretty good money because that initial weekend, once people realize it's not just an action alien movie, that it's actually kind of slow burning and thought provoking, that's not always everyone's cup of tea. So I think with that, those are pretty good numbers.
Yeah, definitely. Although I will say every trailer I saw for it, it was very clear, at least to me, that it wasn't going to be a blockbuster fighting aliens film.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be War of the Worlds or anything like that,
Alright, so the very modest cast list.
Who's in this bloody thing?
You got Amy Adams as Louise Banks, Jeremy Renner as Ian Donnelly, Forrest Whitaker as Colonel Webber, Michael Stolberg, I'm fairly certain I just said that right.
He's fantastic. Yep.
As Agent Halpern, Mark O'Brien as Captain Marks, and Zima, we have agreed on, as General Shang. And of course there are other people, but those are the main players.
Including, 3 people playing the daughter, but Alright, we will get to that if we need to. So
yes.
Alright, so Paul, I guess, I don't know, initial thoughts? I'm assuming things went well, considering we're here now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's generally not to talk about a shitty film unless it's one of our other iterations of this podcast. But
yes, no, and
yeah.
I will start off by saying that I had this film hyped up to me a lot. There were so many people that were telling me it was favorite film of the year. It was gypped at the Oscars. Like, everyone in it was fantastic, and I completely managed to avoid all spoilers for it. I am very pleased with myself for that. I don't know how I managed it.
That is quite impressive, considering this is a year old.
Yeah, I really did actively not click on anything with Arrival in it and all of this stuff. I told people I hadn't seen it so that they wouldn't tell me how it ended or any of the stuff in it. I knew there was a twist, because of course there was going to be a twist. But aside from that, I didn't know anything, and I watched the film, and I will say that I can definitely see why so many people are telling me, oh my god, it's the best film of the year. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that statement, but I do agree that it is a very good film.
So yeah, I can't recall. I definitely knew it was my top. Well, I think at the time it was my best movie of the year. It was my dark horse to win Best Picture. I knew it wasn't going to.
Yeah.
And I had not seen Moonlight as to when the day of the Academy Awards, and I had saw it a couple days after, and that is definitely my Best Picture of 2016. But I would still put Arrival at 2 or 3 in there. It's one of those that's not a whole lot came out last year that you could kind of say, yeah, I want to watch that in a year or 2 or even 5. But this is definitely one of those movies where I think you can get a lot out of revisiting it. So, for a pretty crappy year for 2016 in general and in film, this one definitely stands out.
Yeah, no, I can see why everyone's kind of gushing over this thing. It's almost, to me, it felt the same as when I was watching Contagion, because it was like, it's one of those films where they actually kind of got it right in that this is how it would happen. If Alien turned up and they weren't attacking, but they weren't talking, or at least we can tell, like, this is how it would go down. There would be a lot of military around and very tentative stalemates going on. But
the only thing that they didn't show is Stephen Hawking getting on his goddamn missile to Mars. And see, assholes, I told you this was going to be bad. So, get me the hell out of here. But yeah, that's one of the very first notes I had was authenticity. Like, this feels like how things would happen. But maybe not so much currently. I think our president would probably be outside shooting bottle rockets and like Roman candles at one of these, but just for shits and giggles.
He'd be talking to the world, being like, the one in America is the biggest of the 12.
He just point to one, see witch hunt. What did I tell you? It's full of witches. A whole bunch of alien witches. No one's been treated more unfairly by goddamn aliens in history. You know what? You're actually right. No one, I guess, no one has. Because it's their first encounter.
It's just Trump and that guy from History Channel, or just aliens. Like, just those.
Those would be our Louis and what's his name? Ian. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So one of the other things I noticed right away is that the tone is like perfectly set in this movie. Like, from the initial few seconds, you get that you're kind of in for something kind of unique. At least I felt that way, and it immediately kind of pulls you in. I don't know. Did you feel that?
I found it
take a little longer for you.
Yeah, I found it interesting the choice that they made, obviously going through the relationship with the daughter and the take on that. You don't often. It's almost kind of felt like Up in a way. The opening to that, where you got the the very little explanation. Obviously, she was narrating over it, but she wasn't actually really saying anything other than, "This is my daughter. She died from an incurable disease," and this story actually starts somewhere else. Like that's all we got. That was all the explanation. So
yeah.
I was
talking about beginnings and endings. There is a lot in here that is definitely I kind of mentioned rewatching, but there is a level of enjoyment that knowing, of course, how the movie unfolds, that you get to enjoy little lines of dialogue and kind of that voiceover, and just the script is very good. You can appreciate how good it is.
Yes.
Because there are just little Easter eggs as to what's going on throughout this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't need to point all those out because I do think those are fun to kind of see for yourself. But yeah, but that being said, of course, like I said, spoilers. But yeah, I love how they're played kind of as flashbacks, how we would typically think of, okay, this is a flashback. We're seeing what her life was like, and now she's this professor, in college, this linguistic professor. And then we get to meet Forrest Whitaker. So we love this, of course. It wouldn't be BlokeBusters if I didn't have to, my nitpicks and some complaints here.
Mm-hmm.
He would be at the top of the list here. I don't know. How did you feel about his performance here?
To be perfectly honest, the character of Weber could have been played by anyone over the age of 50.
Thank you. You said it. I don't know why. Don't get me wrong here. I love Forrest Whitaker. I've loved him since, pretty much Good Morning Vietnam was really my first exposure to him. I'm sure I'd seen him in something that was previous to that. But
that must be the same for me as well. I don't remember seeing him in a film.
But, I mean, of course, I love Last King of Scotland. And, but, yeah, I don't know why he needed to be in this movie for that character. It's such a one-dimensional character with zero story arc. He's just there to kind of service the plot, here and there. And then, oh my God, the accent, Paul, the accent. I think we've talked about this on maybe our Academy Awards show, I'm sorry, our non-Academy Awards. Let's avoid that lawsuit. And but I tried to keep track of when it went in and out. And it got so bad and confusing. But yeah, he starts off with some kind of South African, I don't know, thing, and then there's a New York, and then there's just plain old Forrest Whitaker. I don't give a shit today. I'm just going to talk as Forrest Whitaker. And it was all over the map. And for me, it really, at least on a second watch, kind of distracted me from an otherwise incredible movie. That being said, yeah, like you said, the character it could have been anyone. I don't know why it was him.
Yeah, I think they wanted someone who was very well known, so that the moment he's on screen, you're like, oh, this is an important person, rather than could have been someone we didn't know. It's just like, hi there, I'm Colonel Weber. And you're like, okay, sure, why not? They couldn't get an important person to play this one. I think that there was a slight level of that in there, but yeah, his role really was just we don't have much time. And they then spent a very large amount of time going over a bunch of things. So,
it was like, okay, I'll tell that to my people that are above me, and then I'm going to yell at you people, and then I'm going to go talk to them again. So I'm just going to be this middleman. That seriously, come on, Hollywood's a cutthroat business. Give some other actor a chance at that role.
I feel
and let's leave something meatier for Forrest, because he can handle that stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like
when he gives a shit.
In this sort of scenario, surely the person that would be trying to get these people to come with them and to direct it would be the president via secure cable link ordering them about. It wouldn't be just a random colonel guy. I think this is very important. This needs to be run by the commander-in-chief, rather than this colonel who will then go and talk to his superiors, who will then talk to the president. I think it's one too many degrees of separation away from actually being someone who can do something, as it were. I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, small issues with that, but by and large, not a whole lot here to complain about. I did want to get one other thing out of the way is that the professions, the choice of the professions seem a little wrong for this kind of situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand what a theoretical physicist would have over, wouldn't you prefer a cryptologist or, some sort of code breaker? And then maybe not particle physics, but like a astrophysicist, get Neil deGrasse Tyson in there, and then no one can have anymore. Well, he just tears everything down. But I mean, yeah, I guess I get the linguist, but like I said, if you don't know the language, then unless she has some code breaking experience, I don't know.
The biggest problem with the fact that it's a physicist, or even a theoretical physicist, but is that and I don't know how much longer we can kind of dance around this without needing to give away the ending, but that is actually a little bit of a spoiler if you start to think about it for where this film ends up.
Yeah.
Because if there hadn't been a physicist there, then there wouldn't have been anyone to kind of bounce those ideas off of when they started coming up, and for an explanation to really come out that way, as it were. And it would have just been like, how the hell does a linguist understand this? They needed someone else there who could have possibly explained it to her, and now she's explaining it to other people.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. I will buy a certain part of that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it is kind of just lazy. They couldn't have had her be a linguist who minored in astrophysics or something. She could have just had her toe in that world as well.
Like Mark Watney, a astronaut / biologist / engineer / whatever / blowing shit up. Yeah. All right. So where do you want to head from here? I've been running my mouth. So
well, one thing I actually found kind of funny. Recently, I've been rewatching Sherlock. Okay. And I just watched 4 days ago the episode during The Hound of the Baskervilles. And there's a point when Sherlock and Watson go to this army base, and they're like, oh, do you have the aliens here? And this one guy says, yeah, 2 crash landed 30 years ago. We call them Abbott and Costello.
Really?
Yeah. And I had, 2 days previously watched this film, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting connection there.
I think that's just a coincidence.
I'm absolutely sure it's a coincidence. It's just a fun little thing there. But what did you think of the aliens in this?
Just their design, or?
Well, I mean, I will say that it's a type of alien that you very, very, very rarely see in films anymore.
Yeah, that is okay. Yep, that's exact. You're going exactly where I kind of wanted that to go. So, so it's not your Greys or your Green Man, or it's not a bipedal, obviously not bipedal.
No, yes.
Humanoid. That we're used to, that is going to have some verbal language. That is going to know English. That found that gold record and knows everything.
And it's also not the Xenomorph or the Independence Day aliens.
No. So it's not the super scary ones either. Yeah,
they're just trying to kill you.
Yeah. So it's, I guess, somewhere in between as far as design goes. But I did love the originality of that. These septipods, as they are called.
Heptapods.
When we get to reveal the whole creature, which we're getting way ahead of ourselves, they are enormous.
Yes, they are quite large.
Yeah, because we only ever see, for 90% of the film, about halfway up their body, as it were. And then we see they are pretty much titans. But I really liked the overall design and kind of the sound design behind them. Definitely loved the digital effects with the I wrote it down. What are they called? Logograms. Yeah, that's a kind of a different thing, but they were. I enjoyed having Costello.
Yeah, and it was definitely for me again. I avoided all spoilers. I had no idea what these aliens looked like, so it was very nice to not have that spoiled in the slightest, and it was just really fun for me to sit down and see something that I don't know if I'd seen anything exactly like this before. I've seen close to it, where it's either aliens that don't really say much, or like they're sort of there but not. But no, this was really cool to see, and I definitely enjoyed the whole way that they went about it, where they have a language that is so different from our own. So you really did need to start with the absolute building blocks of how do you teach someone to say something in a way that they've never done before. And I don't know if it hit home for me just because of the field that I work in, because working with children with autism, communication is the biggest deficit. So you do have to teach these children how to interact, either verbally or using like gestures or picture exchange systems. Like it's so it's so difficult. So it's really cool to see it being like, wow, these are so different, and a film actually explaining, like, okay, you want them to answer a question. Do they know what a question is? Do they understand the words in the question?
Yeah, I might need to back it up to a few other things that are down, but I did love that Louise on the whiteboard there, the "What is your purpose on Earth" kind of dissection. So basically, first, like, do they understand what a question is, and then do they understand is that a singular or the collective you? What is purpose? Do they understand intent? Like, you have to build all of these on top of each other before you could even begin to have anything resembling a conversation. So I loved how that was kind of explained. It's not just, hey, what are you doing here? Take me to your leader. We'll kill you all. Yeah, whatever.
Yes, it's not a Mars Attacks scenario.
No. I did want to ask along a lighter note, like Mars Attacks. What would you rename Abbott and Costello? What pair of names would you give them?
What would I rename Abbott and Costello?
Yeah,
I would. For no reason other than...
For Paul. Yeah.
No, for no reason other than I just like the film and it's the first thing that popped to mind. I would go for Jules and Vincent.
Oh, nice. Okay. Did not expect you to go that way. Okay.
No, it's just like if I happened to be there and it was just the two things there, like that's the first thing that would pop into my head probably. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that'll work. Okay. I wouldn't go for the old timey. They just like, Quentin Tarantino, good enough.
Yeah, I had Terrence and Phillip, or or possibly Shake and Bake.
Okay.
Or Nighthawk and Dragon. Step Brothers. Of course, none of those have the. I get the Abbott and Costello, and if for some reason it's fine. That show came out 3,000 years ago. But that obviously has the misunderstanding, the miscommunication tie-in. With who's on first thing, but so I get why they named them, but it was kind of a bit of an odd reference, but I did like it. Did kind of fit them. And then spoilers, jumping ahead, we get some sadness with Abbott and Costello, but
well, in that case, that is another thing I did want to bring up about the aliens. Like, these are, absolutely alien. There's nothing remotely human, you could say, about them.
I mean, they resemble maybe some in the animal kingdom, but definitely not human.
Yeah, I'd say that, very squid-like, if I had to pick something. But so they're very much like that. They do just communicate through ink, essentially, and you're only experiencing talking with them through the main character. And so, as you said, spoiler, one of them ends up either dying or dead. We don't actually know because we only know the one thing that pops up on screen. But yes, one of them is dying or dead, and you do kind of care. Like they've done so well in characterizing these two and getting you to really appreciate them that you do feel sad that one of them is not around anymore.
Yeah, Abbott is death process, so we don't know how long death process takes, or if that was just communicating. That could be another 1,000 years, and he's just taking a nap. But I took it to be like, nah, he's on his deathbed, or has recently died. So death process could be decomposing. I'm sorry to get too grim, but
it could
who
be
knows?
That is the
Boston translation. Yeah. I did want to back up to another bit of design. Now, you are free to correct me here on this because you would be more the go-to. But I thought these ships looked like the Gherkin. At least
I can
from
see
the
what
one,
you're talking about. Yes,
from the one like from the front view, obviously not the side view.
Yeah, the second you get the side view, it's just half of it. It looked more like a contact lens than anything else to me if you go for that view.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, oh yeah, London has two of these, or there's one hiding in plain sight right now, but we don't know.
Yeah, I can see what you're going for there. Yeah, definitely.
That was the only thing I could think of when I saw this. But it was, once again, something like, it wasn't an Independence Day ship. It wasn't a saucer per se. They do eventually flip horizontally, and they kind of get that saucer effect. But it's nothing it's very minimalist, which I did love about the whole design of the interior and exterior of the ship.
Yeah. And it is one of those things, when I saw it, I was immediately happy because we weren't going to have this is the machine that alters the gravity. This is the machine that does this. There's no machine. It's just, it's basically the inside of a cube from Cube. That's basically what you had there. And that's all you got. Just a square room. And then you left through a corridor.
Yep. And for a large part of the movie to take place in that, you have to have that really good script and the score, which I want to get to a little more, and the acting, because a lot of it is very play-like. It is just these actors interacting with eventual CG aliens, and that's a lot of the movie that pulls you in and that you're looking forward to their next session, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's that, and then essentially the army camp, just back and forth for a lot of the movie.
Yeah, very much. It's weird to think that this film really didn't have many sets or scenes that were outside of about 3 locations.
Yeah, it was this story. Yeah, these two's story, essentially. It wasn't necessarily, on a large picture, it was the alien arrival, whatever. But we don't go visit them in Russia or Sudan or the UK, anywhere else. We hear things and we hear recordings and see video, short videos, but it's not a globe-trotting thing. We stay in, Omaha or Montana? I believe. I think it's Montana.
State
for the most
is not.
For most of no, you're fine. For most of the film, which I did like that it didn't try to be everything, try to tie in the whole world, because that could have gotten really muddy. But
we didn't see the other end of the phone call at the end. We did and didn't, but whatever. You didn't see from the perspective of anyone else. It was just this one site. So you knew all the information that the people at the site knew, and that was it. Which is one of my favourite ways of having a film develop, because especially in this day and age, it's like, oh no, we want to make sure that the audience doesn't leave with any real questions. It's like, no, that builds intrigue. So, in a film that requires intrigue, you should probably leave it in there. But it's really nice to see that they did leave it where you don't know where it's going, because you don't know any other information. So
you just get little bits and pieces here and there. Oh, this country kind of figured out this part, and this country figured out kind of this part, or this country's being a bunch of assholes, and you got to go from there. Now, I did want to talk a little bit. I just kind of alluded to it. The score, which is, you kind of mentioned some gyps as far as the Academy Awards went. Yeah. This was not even nominated for a kind of dumb reason. The closing song, or the song that's used throughout, it's On the Nature of Delight. It's a pre-existing number. It's a really beautiful classical piece, but because of the amount that was used, and it wasn't original, it wasn't even eligible for an Academy Award nomination, which, right. The score, Johan Johansson's score was perfect. That being said, Moonlight was better, and even though I think La La Land won, I don't know why I'm still talking Oscars for 2016, but I thought it was so good. It was, unsettling and otherworldly. to its credit as it should be. But it was once again minimalist, like the ship, wasn't in the way. It just kind of made you just a little bit uncomfortable, which I kind of liked.
Yeah, I mean, the film won an award for Best Sound Editing, and I will definitely concede that, yes, this film deserved that one, because I think a lot of directors would come to this and go, okay, like, we've got these alien things here, we're going to have this music just in the background swelling and all this stuff. It's like, no, you don't need that. Just let
not
what's
that type of movie
happening
either.
happen, and you just get a lot of the times you just get the somewhat hum of what the aliens make for sound, and then just a sort of a background noise of the ship when they're in the room. And that's about it, with the exception of when a very important thing happens. So it's really cool to listen to the sound in this one, and that's actually something I tend not to pay any attention to, but I really did notice it in this. So that's I can see why a lot of people were so annoyed that this didn't even get a look in because of a sort of ridiculous ruling. So,
yeah. I mean, I get it, but it still kind of stinks. Shoot, where do I want to go from there? I want to talk a little bit about the kind of the flash forwards spoiler or flash arounds I wrote down.
Alright, well, in that case, I say that this should be the section where obviously we'll talk about that, but this will be the time travel, for want of a better word, portion of the conversation.
And if this is not your first time listening to this, this makes me go cross-eyed and throw my coffee on the ground and stomp off in frustration. But I will try to have this conversation. Just promise me you're not going to pull out a chart. No looper chart for me, please.
No looper, no Terminator Genesis.
Oh yeah, so Genesis. Yeah.
I do have a couple of questions,
because I think it broke its own rules. Did you think it broke its own rules?
Sort of.
With the general at the end?
There is one. That was the one thing that I was going to bring up as a question. I also have another question that we can cover when we actually get to it. So, okay, the flash forward specifically first. Go on then. Yeah. What were you going to say?
Well, initially, I just love how beautifully these are shot. The lighting is just incredible in these, and then you just get bits and pieces of this relationship, mother and daughter. For a long time, you still think this is something that has already happened. Yeah. If you're a very astute viewer, or if you're a second-time viewer, that's not the case, or you can feel it maybe not be the case as things start intercutting, as ideas present themselves in these flash forwards, and then she echoes those sentiments or ideas in quote-unquote real time. Yeah. Then things start to, kind of come together a little bit. But I just love those scenes. I love how little was done, but how much you appreciate that relationship and the emotional investment and kind of just importance of that. So, because it's integral to kind of the success of the film, or to you liking the movie. If you're not on board for that, you're not going to give a shit about the end. So those have to work, and I thought they did really well.
Yeah, I did enjoy seeing it. Obviously, as we said, the beginning gave you just kind of a hint, and was clearly there to be like, okay, this happened, and then with the opening narration, the first time you watch it, you don't fully understand what she's saying, but this story actually kind of begins now, and it's almost I see, it's the next chapter, is what you think the first time you see it, and then the next time you watch it, you're like, oh no, this literally is how this story started, because she wouldn't be there if the rest of the film hadn't happened. So I enjoyed I enjoyed the way that they put that in, and I liked the bit where, again, as I said, you didn't need all the information, so you did just get the occasional flash forward, back, however we want to describe it, throughout the film. And you actually said that you feel that it broke its own kind of time travel rules with the general. I will also point out that it did, if you consider that breaking the time travel rules, it did it during one of the flash forwards too. because when she's talking to the girl at the lake and she just doesn't... Like, I almost feel like the daughter maybe thinks the mother is occasionally schizophrenic or something.
I'm wondering how she got custody. Because, real talk here. Like I said, spoilers galore. So she tells her husband that, she can see the future, essentially, and that this horrible thing is going to happen to their daughter. Well, I guess we don't know exactly what she said. She just said she told him something that he wasn't ready to hear. So we would presume it's that about their daughter, that things aren't going to go so well. And so unless he has to either believe this on some level and just, still can't process it, or he thinks she's batshit. And then you think he would fight for custody. But I don't know. I'm delving too deep into these things, but it's still where my mind goes when I watch. So
yeah, I mean, he clearly would believe her just because, like, there's no other way that she would have been able to do what she did, call in the general and getting him to call off the strike without this being the case. And then down the line, it really is, we could go on for quite a while just delving into the psychology of their marriage and why it broke up and all that. But yeah, I think it's kind of weird because, and this is obviously where we get into the slightly heavier thing. So the time travel in this film is not really time travel. It is simply that when you fully understand the language of the aliens, you are able to see time as they do, which appears to be you can basically see all of your timeline. That's sort of what I got.
And it's based on, I wish I had written it down, and I was going to go back. I should probably write it down, but do you happen to remember the name of that theory? The theory that's like if you grow up with a certain language, it affects how you even think of life or have your life is completely different just based on your language.
I've basically heard this in passing. I've not ever delved into this, so I don't know.
But they say the name of the theory in there, and I'm sure some people are screaming or yelling it. But but yeah, it's essentially based on that idea that once you live with this language, and I think even she has a line, once you completely understand it, something like that, then of course it just unlocks everything. Essentially being time as a loop. Time it has no ends and beginnings, which is like pretty much the opening of the movie. There's a little hint where she describes the logograms as having no direction forward or backward.
Yeah.
Like time eventually she will come to understand.
And so my basic understanding of how they were viewing this is that in this particular case, time appears to be fixed completely, as in you can see what's going to happen, or I guess what has happened if you want to go back that way as well, but there will be no changing.
So there's the illusion of free will, but not actually free will.
Yeah, and then that's when you get into you do have free will, but your decisions have already been made, and you can see it as, well, you're seeing the future because you as a person would make this choice, it's the chicken and the egg of time. It's it's always been because it always been, but if you make a new choice, well, that new choice was always that way. And then I start to get mad. So yes, I'm not going to go much. I'm not really going to go down that
because it's bullshit. Yeah, okay. As far as we know, it's bullshit. But
yes,
I do like. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, but my main issue with how they were doing this is that they had this very clear thing of, okay, time doesn't change. She is just seeing visions of the future. However, it's very clear, I think, during at least two, and that is when she's with the girl at the lake, but only for a second, and then she kind of jumped back into her then, and then at the end when it's her with the general, she's very clearly jumped into herself, but she's her right now, having jumped into herself. It's like I said, especially with the general, because she's just there, just like, oh, General, like, what do you want? It's like, oh, I feel like I need to say this to you, and she's
it was just such a kind of a BS way to get out of the illogic of that scene. Is that I feel compelled, I need to share information with you that you should ostensibly already know. Because you did it, you called me.
The only thing I can think of is that she has come to explain to everyone what she's learned about the whole time thing and like all of this stuff, and so the General has become informed of this, and so now he realizes, oh, I need to give her my number or something like that.
That was my only plausible explanation, was that he somehow was made aware of this or came to the same conclusion independently with his advisors or whoever, but that's the only way I can reconcile that. Because I know we're really jumping to the end there, but there was what was the other one? Oh, because he even repeats what she told him. Like, he shows her the phone number, and then she repeats like both of those things together are a lot to ask of something. Like I said, that should already have that information.
Yeah,
and it was just 18 months ago that we found out that this went down. So
exactly. So, and it's like I feel like they seem to be going down, like I said, this route of time, despite the fact that you're viewing it, is fixed, because she knows all of the stuff now that's going to happen. She knows she's going to marry Ian, and they're going to have a daughter that she knows, like, month before they even go on their first date, that her daughter is going to die from an incurable disease, and she still goes through with all of it without a single thing of like, okay, we're going to have a daughter. Well, what if we have genetic testing or something like this in a world that's clearly quite advanced now? What if we change this one gene? Like, maybe it's it's an incurable disease once the baby's developed. Like, can't we? I know you're now getting into designer test tube babies, but can't we fix this incurable disease when?
Seems definitely worth a Google search at the least. Than to just accept. But no, I mean, I get the point the movie was trying to make there, is that it just doesn't matter if of course, just enjoy every moment.
I mean, now being a father, I genuinely can fully understand. Like, the worst thing in the world is having to go through what she's going to go through at the end. But the best thing in the world is everything else. Like, it's like, I know. I'm not trying to be happy, but
I know. But hey, I think fatherhood and maybe this movie has cracked your tough English shell.
I can still, I'm still a heartless bastard.
Good. Never change.
I can now understand.
Yes, you have learned.
Yes, I understand
how the other humans operate.
Yeah, I understand. I still don't care. So
got it. That's better. Okay, thank you. Never change. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Can we back up a little bit to the bomb sequence?
Yeah, this was the other thing I was.
This was another thing that I had. I took a little umbrage with. Especially for a movie of this caliber, to have a timer bomb. I'm so sick of timer bombs. We know they're dumb. We know they don't exist. If you want control of a bomb, don't put a timer on it. You have a detonate. You have a detonator, and you decide when it goes off. But no, these guys are like, go ahead, go back in there. I think there's probably a few seconds left on that clock. We don't give a shit about you. You can blow up with the aliens. So that was kind of heartless and bastardly.
Yes,
of those
incredibly.
Guys. But okay, it's a couple of the top minds in the country. Fuck them.
My biggest question behind that whole thing was, who gave the order?
Yeah, because they all seem kind of shocked when it goes off.
Yeah, they pretty much everyone else at the base seem to have no idea, so I feel as though...
So, wait, did we get Halpern's reaction, Agent Halpern, or not? I don't remember, because he was the douche nozzle of this movie.
I don't recall right now. I just know that it seems as though these people were kind of buying into the news more than listening to their superiors.
Okay, so they were watching too much Fox News. Okay.
Yeah, it's just, whatever.
Okay. So the bomb kind of led into another thing I had questions about was the barrier itself, the barrier between heptapod and human.
Mhm.
So that's design feature in alien ship, like that comes standard for eventual interaction with other species, or who put the barrier there? If the barrier wasn't there, how do they make the logograms form? Can they form them in midair? I got a lot of questions.
Well, assuming we're buying into the circular time and they can view it, they know that a barrier has to be there so that they can interact. So they built it because they had
aren't you
built
so
it.
smart?
Yeah. I mean, I get the feeling that they built it specifically for coming to Earth and doing it, because I don't feel like they would need a barrier to just travel.
Wouldn't they have found a speedier way to communicate then, you think? Or not, if they know like the steps that were going to be taken?
I believe that, well, two things. Number one...
Well, I mean, we go back to whatever was, and always will be.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to chalk part of it up to, yes, they're able to see through time, but like for the sake of story, they need to not know how to speak in a language that we understand.
Yeah.
But then also, like, it is like aliens are able to see through time. However, just because they can see through time, they can see through their time, that doesn't mean that they can understand an alien language. So they can only communicate through the language they know, even if they can see themselves talking to these people that they don't understand. Like, so
and it's just like, I know you're a human. Okay, I get it. Let's move on. They had to be the most patient aliens in the universe.
It's not like when an English person goes on holiday to France and you just speak slowly and clearly in English, and when that doesn't work, you start shouting
because they love people that shout slowly.
It basically, I feel like, imagine if you were an English speaking person and you went somewhere where they had never heard English before, period. How do you communicate? There's no frame of reference for either of you. You've never heard their language. They've never heard yours. They gesture in different ways for whatever reason. So
I would try interpretive dance.
Yeah, there you go. But how do you know that they would interpret your dance moves the way you do?
Well, we hope for the best. We hope when I do my weapon dance, they know it's actually a gift dance.
Oh yes, there you go.
So that I don't get burned alive or whatever.
Yeah. So it really, again, I can't commend this film enough for the way that they were able to get across the idea of language. Like it really is something that I think a lot of people never think about.
Yeah, and specifically communication within, like, do your words mean the same as my words? Are we understanding things? Because that happens with the humans in this movie. That you say one thing, but we all live inside our own heads, right? Of course, we know that, but there's a lot of thought that goes into, hopefully, our president was standing, there's a lot of thought that goes into the words that come out of our mouths, that we've formed already, and then we do the best with the language that we're given, and that doesn't always mean the same thing to everybody. So I think this movie did an excellent job of that, just on that, and then across interspecies as well, I just agree 1,000%.
All right. Well, I feel just for sake of time here, shall I get to what other people have sent in about this film?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes, because we've actually had a significant number of people get on to us about this.
All right, good.
So, moving swiftly along, Paul Salt from the One Good Thing podcast. Arrival is a movie about the beauty and importance of communication. It is therefore a film that feels urgent and also timeless. It is also a film that depends on the formidable performance of Amy Adams. The necessary ambiguity she achieves conveys a sadness that is also confusion and a remorse that is also longing. She is incredible. And Denis Villeneuve also demonstrates that he is an extraordinary talent who had the power to reinvigorate the sci-fi genre. So I'd say that fairly in line with what we were talking about. And then the Beyond the Box Set guys, I put something out on Twitter, and so they said, "Ooh, this was our joint favourite film of 2016 on Beyond the Box Set." We talked about it a lot in our Oscar ranking episode, and then hashtag Justice for Arrival was very much the theme of our Oscar party. So, yeah, so definitely a little annoyed that didn't get a look in. In Session Film said, "I think Arrival will be one of those films that when we look back 30 years from now, it will be one of those defining films of this decade." So, very high praise from those guys.
Yeah.
Sarah Poulton, and if you're listening, Sarah, I want the rest of this story. She simply said, "This movie kind of ended my last relationship."
It was dead on arrival.
I guess.
I'm sorry, Sarah. Apologies.
So the last row sent two separate things. I don't know if it's the same person who decided to add on, but the first one was Arrival was by far one of my favourite films of last year. Amy Adams was robbed for not even being nominated. Her performance was amazing. That was from Drew. And then the next one just said, Arrival is the type of film that you watch 3, 4 or 5 times and you still think about it well after it's over. One of the most thought-provoking films I've seen in a really long time. The art direction, cinematography, style, all of it was perfection. Totally agree with the comments about Villeneuve being director of the decade, which is something I think Paul Salt actually said in the message group, but he emailed me the one that I actually read out, so sorry about that. And then 2 things from the movie guys. The first one said, I too loved Arrival. Yes, very thought-provoking and realistic as well, given that it's in the sci-fi realm. It's the work of a distinct director. Also, some of Charlie Sheen's best work. And then 2 hours later, posted, Arrival is the most potent tale of a frightened America under invasion from an alien race since the speech where Trump announced his candidacy. So, there we go. I don't know if they realised, shit, we made a mistake here, or if they were trying to make a joke and it didn't land. So,
one of those language things.
I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone there that actually got a hold of us and got back to us on that. And Shall we give our ratings for this then?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Right. Why don't you go first this time? I think I went first for the last one.
Okay, so super fast recap of our rating. We start at a perfect 0, and we take off points incrementally for little nitpicks. That's as far as I'm going into it. So, like I said, 0.0 is perfect. I would put this at about a minus 1.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a few nitpicks here or there. So, the Forrest Whitaker thing, some of the time stuff, but other than that, superb.
Yeah, and I will say, I've been going back and forth about this because. Yeah, I mean, sound wonderful. There's some fantastic acting in this. There's also, as you say, like Forrest Whitaker, not necessary. Like either write that character better or get an unknown or something in the role. Like just it's weird. There's a bit of a mismatch there. And yeah, I think I'm going to go with a -2 on this one, just because being someone that is very into time travel, and I'm not saying I fully understand all theories about time travel, but I'm definitely able to follow along without getting a headache. And I feel as though this film tried very, very, very hard to set up exact rules on the quote-unquote time travel, and then it still didn't quite hold to it or broke it when it was convenient for the story, and I can't get behind that. But yeah, I think a -2 for me is probably about where I'm going to stand, and I don't think that's going to go up or down over time. I think that's where I'm going to stay.
Yeah, fair enough. I did just want to one last shout out here to I wanted to make a real quick connection to Handmaid's Tale. The daughter in that is named Hannah, which I kind of found interesting. Of course, the book predating the movie by quite a bit. The book was in the 80s, so and even I believe if there's Handmaid's Tale fans out there listening, I believe even June, as we come to learn in the show, says that mentions it's a palindrome, and that's why she was named that. But obviously, it has a little more meaning in this context. But I thought that was cool. I just threw that out there. But okay, now I'm done. I think.
Yes.
Yes, gonna have to be.
Yes,
I have to pee.
Yes, we could definitely go on about this for ages, but bodily functions and
that was
time constraints and work shit. Oh dear,
yeah.
Getting in the way. Alright, well, I think that's definitely it from us then. So, thank to everyone who wrote in and gave us their comments. And if you have any comments, you out there listening right now, if you have any comments you want us to hear, maybe mention on the next podcast if you feel like, oh, I wanted to say something about it, just get a hold of us. Twitter's always great, @BlokeBusters. We're generally quite good on that. My phone is currently broken. I'm hoping to have it back by the time this comes out, but in case I don't, I apologize for taking me a little while to get back to you. We also have Facebook, facebook.com/BlokeBusters, Instagram, BlokeBusters, email us blokebusterpodcast@gmail.com if you really want to give us a full, a full 3-page essay on exactly what was right or wrong about Arrival, which I'm sure some people are writing as we speak. And, go to our website just because it's a nice website. We like it. blokebusters.webs.com there. So, that is everything that I can think of to add in there, and I'm assuming you don't have anything else, Brian?
Nope, you got it.
Alright, so I've been Paul.
I've been Brian.
See you guys. Bye.